Thank you for tuning into my channel and for tuning into this new series that I'm starting, which is this paint over and critique series on YouTube, where I gathered submissions at the beginning of this year from my Instagram following and also from my students on Discord. And I'm just going to be showing you my process of how I do a paint over and critique focusing on color, value, composition, texture, and other things. So I'm really excited to do this. This is my first time doing this series, and hopefully it'll give you a glimpse of how I teach and also how and what I cover in my courses. And just really quick, if you're interested in learning with me, I do have a new workshop, on-demand workshop that just came out called Capturing the Landscape from Analysis to Finished Study, where I walk through my complete master study process step by step from gesture study to refined painting. And I also have a really extensive course covering all the fundamentals of painting in digital and gouache called Essentials of Painting. Both are in the link below. Both have links below my bio, so make sure you check those out. Now today, I'm going to be doing a paint over of student Natalie Dorofeva. I hope I pronounced her name right. Natalie was actually a student of mine back when I was teaching at Sentient Academy. She might have been my digital painting foundation student and then my color scripting student. And now she is part of my Discord group because all students get to join my private Discord group. And she submitted this beautiful gouache painting for critique. And I thought it was really awesome. And just as a backstory, I'm clicking through because I want to make sure I read correctly what she struggled with, so you guys have kind of context in what she was trying to achieve, what she liked, what she didn't like about it. So the top is a reference that you guys can all see, and the bottom is her gouache painting, and it's called Autumn River. And she said, I struggled here the most with simplifying complexity in shapes mostly and with river colors, finding the balance between showing the reflection of the bright blue sky and not making it look cartoony. All right, so I think she kind of nailed her self-critique right on the spot. First of all, I'm going to say I think this is a really nice painting. And I'm going to look at everything from value to texture to shapes to masses. I'm going to quickly go over what I think is working and, of course, what I think could be improved in this painting. And hopefully that will also give you guys insight on your own paintings as well. So first things first, I can see that she really livened up the colors from the reference. A reference isn't exactly exciting, I would say. I think she did this in plein air. Yeah, she did. So I bet you the colors just looked so much better with her eyes than in this photo, which is why I'm always a proponent of painting plein air instead of just strictly from photos. And I think overall, the composition is, for the most part, fine, I would say. I would say if I turn it black and white, the values, I think, is partly what is maybe making this painting not read as well as I think the biggest thing is actually the textural complexity that's everywhere. So she did mention that in her self-critique, and I thought she nailed it right on. So when I zoom in on this painting, there's kind of a lot of texture, and I'll just do it on a new layer, but there's a lot of texture in the foliage, a lot of texture in the ground and here, and also in the background. So when I'm looking at this painting, my eye kind of doesn't know where to latch onto because everything is demanding attention. So I think with this paint over, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start simplifying certain areas. And that's what I always say when I'm teaching. A lot of times it's actually about finding where to have that tug and pull, that balance of simplification and complexity. When you have too much simplification everywhere, your painting doesn't feel finished. And then when you have too much complexity everywhere, it feels noisy. So finding that balance, I think, is really important. So I'm going to take her colors because I don't have to reinvent the colors. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a simple, kind of my favorite flat brush that I have here. And I'm demoing on Adobe Photoshop, by the way. And I think I'm going to take the lasso tool and I'm just going to start simplifying certain areas, certain planes, and kind of finding the main masses again. So I'm using the lasso tool, and if you're not familiar with Photoshop, don't get too hung up on exactly technically how I'm doing it. I'm just more focused on explaining why I'm doing it, or kind of the outcome instead of the how. So the why instead of the how. If you are curious about my Photoshop tricks, I do have a free playlist on my YouTube channel about Photoshop for dummies, and so definitely check that out if you are curious. And I also go over that in my course, Essentials of Painting. Now, I love this brush right here for several reasons. It basically really just acts as my flat brush in gouache painting. And so right now what I'm doing is I'm actually just taking out all that texture. I know there's different rock gradations, and you can see in the reference photo, up here, like you can see that, there's different rock textures. But for now, I need to go back to simplification before I handle all that, right? Because it's so easy to get caught up in all those details and then kind of lose sight of the hierarchy in your painting. So I just kind of want to refine those bigger masses. I'm kind of utilizing the grays a little bit more, and I'm actually toning down a little bit the lights that she had in the rocks and the cliff in the back, because it was a little bit too light, I thought, and it was kind of sorry, it's hard to paint and talk at the same time. I'm painting and talking at the same time, so this is not some voiceover afterwards. So in case you are wondering, I do pause sometimes because I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Is it working? Blah, blah, blah. And so you can see already with that simplification, I am missing kind of the complexity in the cliff, but I'm not worried because I know that I can add on to that a little bit later. I'm going to bring back the cliff a little bit back here, this mountain, and just sort of refine these main shapes before we add these nuances, right? Now, the river, I think, really nice job doing the reflections. I think a trick with reflections is to drag your flat brush down, kind of like that, instead of trying to paint these, instead of doing this and painting these horizontal like this. I find it much more effective to drag a dry brush, flat brush, oops, that's not my flat brush, down like this, and it kind of just gets this nice textural gradient, as well as mimics the movement, I suppose, of the reflection kind of being dragged down. So right now I'm going to make my focal point kind of this area right there. So I'm going to just push. She already kind of pushed the light in those trees, but I'm going to just bring a little bit more saturation in the foreground. I'm going to simplify these ground planes a little bit because they're there, but they're not the focal point. And I think less value and textural quality needs to be attributed to them, less, not more. So right now, what I can do is I'm going to drag it, and I'm going to put a cool kind of note. And then one thing that I like to do with, and I should do this. I should bring my navigator over, which is really handy to see if something is working or not working. So that's kind of like my thumbnail version, right? I look at that constantly when I'm painting, sometimes more than my actual painting, to see if my painting is indeed moving in the right direction or not, which can happen. So the thumbnail is a really great way. Now I'm just going to pick a lighter value now, and I'm just going to scallop. Now this is kind of a digital trick, but you can always do this in gouache. What I do is I hit the tops of the the bushes, and I just sort of, that's not light enough. Value, oh, you know what, it's because I'm at 14%, so let's move that up. And I'm just sort of scalloping and finding these, oops, the tops of these bushes that are being hit by this kind of top light. Now I will say, okay, this reference photo, it looks like it's taken at noontime, and how I can tell is that the shadows are really curt. Everything's very flat. It's almost the hardest time of day to paint at because there's not these long, beautiful shadows and stuff like that. So that makes it harder as well. That is for sure. So that's something to keep in mind. The time of day that you're painting at can really matter. And not that you should never paint at noontime, it's great practice, but just know what kind of shadows, light direction that you're dealing with is important. So for me, I really quickly like to go back to my, I like to go back to this simple brush. I'm a simple brush girl. I cannot always go back to just lasso tool and a few simple brushes. I'm trying to find this area. This area is starting to be kind of distracting to me. So I have to find a way to sort of lead the eye around with these masses, simplify and find areas of simplicity and complexity. So before she had a lot of texture everywhere, I'm just going to simplify this front to this kind of mass right here. And maybe even, I'm tempted to put more of these grays down because that's what the picture shows. But I'm trying to find a balance between what she painted and what the picture is showing. So that's why you see me. She had these light values. So I'm actually just putting down slightly darker values. And you see there's actually a lot of variation of warm and cool grays. So a lot of this foliage is just variation of warm and cool grays, which I love. If you know me, I love grays. I'm a gray lover, love neutrals. And they're just the things that, and colors that just harmonize, right? Here I'm going to start adding now some lighter shapes just to break down the mass that I have, but I want to make sure that they're not too light, okay? So I want to break down the plane a little bit, but I want to make sure that, you know, it's not too light. Because I don't, so what happens if I put a value that's too light? You see how that starts sticking out way too much? It doesn't fit anywhere in the painting. In fact, even in the reference photo, I guarantee you, there's not a color that is this light. So it's very important to understand, you see, no color is that light. So it's very important to understand the value range of what you're dealing with, whether it be from photo or from real life, right? So I know that I can pop some certain, lights, but it's not going to be that light. Okay, it's not going to be so bright white. I have to really control the range of my values so that my values make sense in my painting. Right? They have to make sense for your painting. Even if the reference has it, it has to make sense for your painting. And you're not copying reference photo ever. I mean, I'm not even copying. I'm not very good with rock, so it might take me a little bit to figure this out. What I'm trying to do here now is I'm just picking cooler and cooler colors. And I just want to intersperse some bushes that I see. There's kind of like a row of bushes there, but I kind of want to maybe design it a little bit more and figure out how to do that without being too distracting. The power of overlap is also really powerful, right? So overlapping can make things feel like they're in front of each other, like this tree. I'm just gonna kind of clean up this. So I'm just color picking her colors that she has and then adjusting it slightly. And kind of just figuring out, okay, do I need more value contrast along the coast so we can indeed tell where the trees end and where they start? Do I need slightly more value contrast in the foreground of the river? This is good practice for me too, because I don't paint at noontime very much. So in case you're wondering, this whole time I've basically just used one brush. So here I'm starting to zone in the smaller shapes. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's some rock shapes there. I like the kind of contrast and shape size. There's some smaller shapes there, but I don't want it to ever kind of take away. So I'm constantly simplifying. Here the blue got a little bit saturated, so I'm actually just going to take that blue, because I don't see any level of saturation in the water, and I'm just going to neutralize it, or yeah, a little bit. Yes, there's, you know, the shoreline, which is a little bit darker. Maybe some trees here. Maybe we can just pop a little bit more saturation. I do see, I'm trying to find the right value, to be honest, more than anything. So maybe we can pop the saturation there. I do feel like this this shoreline is a little bit too dark. It can maybe be a little bit more, I don't know, actually purple maybe. Just feel it. And I'm just sensing these, that's not right. Maybe something like this. So notice how I'm picking a lot of grays. And I've just done everything on one layer so far, because that's how I like to work. Now maybe there's some light shapes, some you know, like when you zoom into the reference, there is those, you know, parts of the ground peeking through this shrubbery. So that's what I'm trying to imitate, trying to just capture that overlap that's going on. And I'm not trying to create a finished painting. That's just a paint over. So it's not going to look super beautiful, but hopefully it kind of starts to answer some questions. Now here, kind of want to add a little bit more. Notice how all these warm and cool variations of greens that I'm picking, but I'm also noticing that if I pick something that's too saturated, it kind of starts to stand out a little bit much. So I'm really only putting these saturation, like this green feels more saturated against all my grays already, because this painting is really composed of grays. So I'm putting it really in select places to balance the whole painting out. If it's too heavy in one side, it might feel kind of, you know, lopsided. So I'm making sure that, you know, this green is kind of balanced throughout other parts of the painting, maybe this neutral as well. So notice how the colors I'm picking are all on the left side, and I'm never picking, like something like this just does not fit in this painting, right? So that's something that I'm also thinking about. Now I kind of want to cut into this coast a little bit more. There's also some interesting houses at the top that I thought might be nice to add, and also these trees that pen is hitting my mic. I think I'm talking too close to the mic. These trees at the top there that I want to just kind of intersperse, because what does these trees do? They break down this larger mass, right? So in my Essentials of Painting course, I do talk about this, how we think of building up a landscape from masses first, then breaking up those masses into light and dark or shadow shapes, or both, right? In this case, both the cliff and the trees are in light, so I'm really thinking about breaking it down. These smaller dark shapes of these trees are kind of breaking down that mass a little bit of that bigger cliff, okay? maybe we can just pick a slightly lighter value now just to hit. I was gonna pick something slightly cooler and just hitting a little bit of these light parts of the cliffs. I don't like how the edge control of some of these, so now I'm gonna start getting really picky about edge control and how that feels, you know, if the edge is too hard or too soft. All that definitely affects a painting, right? The visual tools that you have at play come into everything, whether you're creating a realist painting, an abstract painting, or anything in between. And all those tools of value, shape, texture, line, edges. Value creates light and shadow. That is so important. See that value I just put down? Not accurate. It's too saturated and it's too purple. So I need to almost, look, I almost put gray. Look where this is at. It's gray and it feels warm out in the distance there. So let's oh, I was blocking my whole navigator the whole time. I honestly wasn't looking at it, but I like to make it look a little smaller. So we can see kind of before and after how I've just simplified the texture around, right? So before, if I'm looking at this painting, what I saw was my eye goes, but then it kind of gets lost after that, right? So with using light and shadow, we're kind of trying to guide the eye around. So maybe I could use some of these light shapes to now guide my eye around here. And then I could use maybe this bush at the top to connect that light shape of the cliff to there. And what I think we could do is now maybe be a little bit more bold with some of these shapes, and maybe just throw in a little bit of that yellow, maybe even a cooler yellow. Maybe just put it in certain places. Now I don't know if this will work. I gotta play around a little bit. I'm gonna throw in a little bit of yellow here on the side as well, on the right side, so it balances a little bit, and maybe on the right side as well. I think maybe some of these shapes can just be a little bit more robust to really make this foliage stand out a little bit more. I don't like those shapes I just put down. So so maybe playing with that a little bit. I'm also noticing there's some worms in this coastline. That might be fun to put down. Maybe pop some worms in the foreground. Oops, as well here. I'm gonna pop some greens as well, just a little bit of saturation. And that's where we can start. Not pleased with my shapes. I think finding the shapes of trees is really difficult, like a pleasing grouping of shapes. That might take some time, which I probably won't figure out in this quick paint over, but hopefully can start giving some ideas. Maybe a bush. So I'm just kind of clarifying some shapes as well and carving in and out, right? Oops, didn't mean to do that. Carving in and out. There's some, I don't know, this line feels too straight now. I think I botched that. Yeah, I don't like how this looks. I botched that shoreline a little bit. It's crazy how so many of these saturated colors just feel too saturated. When I put them down, it's really, really interesting to see. Wow, shorelines are difficult. I'm trying to figure out how I can make this part a little bit more of a focal point. Right here, I think it's the shape design, really. that that is going to be key. Finding, you know, where to put and connect this whole shape. I think Clyde Aspiveg is a great person to study for that, because he's so good at just poetically painting trees. I'm going to add a little bit of purple. I always like to add a little bit of warmth in trees. That's a little bit of a tip of mine. I think I even made a carousel about that in my Instagram. So just maybe adding some pop of color right there. That can be a way to sort of draw your eye into the area, because what I'm noticing here is that the areas of highest contrast are sort of right there in those pockets, right? So without having to go too dark, I mean, let's see how dark we can go. We could pop these little pockets of shadow and see where that takes us. Not very happy with the shoreline. I know there's a bunch of trees just lining it, but I would design that differently. And maybe even I would play around with maybe taking that out or breaking it up just a little bit. I think there's a variety of ways that one can do that. Making sure if you do put trees that they're not all equally spaced, like sentinels, right? So maybe breaking it up, something like that. Might be more pleasing to the eye, because right now my eye would just go to that row of trees and it was kind of distracting. So just checking value-wise and everything. But anywho, in terms of a quick paint over, don't know how long I was going for. That's where I would really start. And I would keep always squinting and checking my values. So if we turn this black and white as well, you see this whole painting is really composed of mid values, right? And there's some light texture, just really dry brushing texture in some areas. Right there, maybe the house right there, maybe right here. All those light shapes could lead your eye in more, for sure. And so I think to be really selective about that is key, right? And I think actually another thing, I'm looking at this composition wise, maybe it would help to bring this like this a little bit more and just kind of, I'm gonna start scribbling now. And just kind of bring that in. And then, like I said, using these light shapes, well, not at the very edge of your painting, but strategically using some of these shapes to kind of bring your eye in could be an option. And I'm just going to I don't like that. I don't like the shape of that shoreline. It's annoying me, but I'm not gonna fix it all now. So I think just reorganizing the values and the texture, where you put your texture, is key in this painting, because there's so much going on. There's rock texture, trees texture, and everything. And I think something that's important to keep in mind is the hierarchy of texture in your painting, right? I think I mentioned that at the beginning of this video. And I think, knowing where to group, actually a thing I could do that would be fun is I'm going to do this. I'm going to duplicate it. One last thing. I'm going to start smudging, actually. And where's my smudge? And let's see. And what that will do is that's going to start to merge certain shapes as well and just push back texture that maybe didn't need to be there. So I basically just merged this whole painting, her painting with my paint over, so that I can just work off of one shape again. Not shape, sorry, one layer, basically like a traditional gouache painting. And sometimes what I like to do is I like to over smudge to see what I really don't need in a painting. Like, where can I really lose my edges? And this is something I talk about this much more in my Essentials of Painting course, if you're curious how to lose edges and all that. So sometimes that's what I'll do. And then, sometimes I'll do something like drastic like this. And then that will make me think, okay, so now I do need to bring back like certain, maybe, oops, I'm going to use this brush. Maybe I do need to bring back some harder edge shapes, connect it, find a way. It's not easy, by the way. Smudging is not the equal to being painterly. It makes something look painterly, but to smudge in the right areas is not easy, because you can easily just also lose structure in your painting. So that's kind of a start of what I will do. And then I'll go back and forth, and then I'll bring back edges, and then I'll smudge again, and then I'll bring back edges again, and it's just kind of this back and forth thing that can be really fun. Just trying to maybe define. It's clear that I haven't painted a river in a while, because I'm like, oh. And certain reflections as well. Again, just dragging down with your brush, that can be as effective. Right now I'm using a brush that has a little bit of opacity, so I'm just dragging down that way a little bit. Things like that. So this painting is this paintover is certainly not finished by any means, but hopefully, Natalie, it will give you a inspiration or start to seeing where you could simplify certain areas of texture. What I would take a flat brush, and I would just paint over your cliff again and refine some of those main masses, and then put in your most important shapes. Okay, and let me just group everything again. So this is paint over. And I would also do that for some of the foreground foliage as well. I would refine. I would take a flat brush, spray it down. Spraying down is like my best friend, guys. Gouache painting, when I'm stuck, I just spray it down. And then I always find new shapes to work from. I would spray this. You have some nice stuff going on here. Not necessarily into, but maybe areas like right here. And in this jut of land. I think maybe that can use some simplification, and as well as maybe just making sure these notes in the back here aren't as saturated. The pinks and like right here, it's a terrible color. It's still a terrible color. Let me just pick something. So like these pinks right here, even just a little bit might be too saturated. So I would even maybe bring it down just a little bit more. And I'd also bring down some of these areas. See, it's because I'm using the wrong brush. Like these shapes right here, these dark red burnt sienna shapes, I would lighten them up a little bit and desaturate them as well, because they're coming forward just a tad much. All right, yeah, I kind of stripped a little bit of your color. So if you want to bring some of those colors back, that's fine too. So sometimes it takes stripping back the color, and then it's like, oh, okay, like where can I bring it back now? And where can I brush in some of the warmth and all that stuff? So maybe some warmth in the foreground might help as well. Things like that. Okay. Actually, what I'm not liking is the way the bushes are being hitting the ground. So finding a way for these bushes to hit the ground might be good too. So I hope that helped. I hope that you guys enjoyed this paint over. I've closed my submissions for this year, but hopefully next year I'll be doing the same thing. And again, if you're interested in really taking a deep dive in the fundamentals and understanding how to create your own paintings, starting from composition and using grids, and building from value and value keys and how value keys relate to mood, and understanding color at its core, and then going to color and light and applying that all to plein air in your paintings. My Essentials of Painting course covers all that. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.